Take your position. This is Gagarin. Let's go. What is happening now in the Belarusian army has probably never been seen before in the world of military art. Previously, all countries followed the algorithm of studying armed conflicts, adopting experiences, and implementing the best practices. Our commanders have gone further and are simultaneously modeling what is happening in the combat zone on their own territory. At the same time, they are immediately developing optimal action plans, already adapted to our terrain and our technical and intellectual capabilities. Let me explain. Recently, an exercise concluded where, according to the scenario, enemy formations broke through the state border and captured several settlements. Does this remind you of anything? The plan, let's call it the Kursk Bulge near Grodno, assumed that the opponent had gathered large forces but operated in small, mobile groups, boldly and harshly. We also responded interestingly.
The BTGR conducts special combat operations, fighting against enemy DRGs and illegal armed formations. Special combat operations involve constant troop movements from one area to another, ambush actions, and reaching new positions. This never stops, and there is a constant dynamic, an escalation of the situation, which definitely provides the personnel with knowledge and practice. And field training. The work is mainly done in company tactical groups. This includes a motorized rifle company with reinforcement means, a tank company, AGS crews, anti-aircraft and missile units.
About a decade ago, our exercises would have ended with an epic victory over the enemy, with powerful live fire in the finale. Now, the key tools are reconnaissance and mobility. The sky is crowded with drones, not just ours. It is assumed that the enemy has destroyed the bridges. The military decided to cross the Niemen River without attracting attention with large forces. Therefore, they split up and went underwater with tanks, on water with BMPs, and used a floating bridge to move wheeled vehicles with artillery on a ferry crossing.
Everything depends on the situation. There are cases when, for example, there are no bridges, but after conducting engineering reconnaissance, it may seem possible to cross. The crews prepared their vehicles for crossing the water barrier, installing underwater driving equipment.
It is worth mentioning that the units were quickly reinforced with reservists. Their knowledge of the terrain helped to localize the enemy and identify its weak points. Then, small assault groups worked to liberate villages and settlements.
The nearest settlement was captured by the conditional enemy. We arrived in the area to stop its further advance. We moved out with a motorized rifle platoon reinforced with AGS. According to the command, when the enemy started moving, we engaged them with available means. If the enemy had light armored vehicles, the BMP would engage in combat.
In the preparation of the troops, the supply of various weapons to neighboring countries is also considered. If, for example, F-16s appear in the sky nearby, the military is already learning to deal with complex aerial targets. For wide maneuvers with the use of air-to-air missiles, large Russian training grounds are best suited. Recently, Belarusian fighters were actively working at the Ashaluk training ground.
They performed launches with pairs of Su-30 aircraft, 2 medium-range missiles and also short-range missiles. The experience is interesting. Any combat application brings real experience because it's one thing to practice in simulators and quite another to perform real launches, as it adds emotional stress, responsibility, and requires precise adherence to parameters.
In combat launches, they are of great importance, not only to verify the capabilities of our equipment, but also because it is very important to gain combat experience from our Russian colleagues.
Not so long ago, the main speakers of war were tanks, howitzers, and airplanes. Now drones, electronic warfare, and automation tools are becoming louder, and sometimes infantry attacks on motorcycles and mopeds. Tomorrow the world will see new forms, methods, products, variations, and paragraphs of military actions. The focus will change, and then change again. In such conditions, it is important to move quickly, adapt, and stay ahead. Only then will the Kursk Bulge remain victorious or just an exercise.